Good morning. Welcome to inDialog. Join me today as I talk to Chitresh Das, the pioneer who brought Kathak to America. Chitresh Das is a visionary artist and teacher who crossed all cultural barriers to make Kathak accessible to all. His life's work began in 1970 when he received the Whitney Fellowship from the University of Maryland to teach Kathak and learn modern dance. A year later, Ustad Ali Akbar Khan invited him to establish the first Kathak dance program in the United States. Welcome to inDialog.
Namaskar.
Tell us a bit about your childhood. You grew up in your parents' dance school, Nritya Bharati,
Yes.
which I've read was visited by philosophers, poets, artists. How was
Yes.
it?
Well, my mother was a visionary and my father was a dancer, but both of them were dancers. But my father was the pandit and a teacher and a choreographer, and he was instrumental in bringing a lot of gurus at that time. Guru Padma Shri Guru Atomba from Manipur, Guru Krishna Nair from Kerala, Guru Gunaya also from what you call from Kandian dance from Ceylon. So obviously in the school they would invite from time to time, and I grew up watching so many great people. My mother's greatest, one of her best friend was Jaya Ji, one of the greatest Kathak dancer, a female Kathak dancer, such a powerful Kathak dancer, was in Calcutta living at that time. And she used to come and visit my mother. My mother's dream was that I study with her. So there's another story. And
You learned from your parents? though,
no,
right?
I studied with my Guruji, Pandit Ram Narayan Misra. And the story goes, which actually, this is interesting that you asked me that question, because my mother wanted me to study with Jaya Ji. So she used to come and have lunch. So one day my mother said, "Son, beta, just do what your auntie does." So Jaya Ji said, "Haan beta, tatkar lagao." So do some tatkar. So she's strong, but I was a baby, so 9-year-old, or maybe 8.5, 9, something like that. She started doing it, so I started following whatever. She said, "लड़का तो अच्छा, यार इसको पार तो ठीक है, इसको नाच सीखना है." So my mother said, "हाँ, ज़रूर, ज़रूर." So she left. So my mother asked me, "You want to study with such a great dancer?" I kept quiet. Then she says, "What happened? Why you don't like her?" I said, "No, I don't want to study with a woman." And you can imagine my mother. My mother was not a very easy person and very strong. Today, what I am, because for my mother, I mean, very, very strong. Next thing was that my mother invited this man on a shrimp curry with coconut milk, Bengali Malai curry, Now, he's a Rajasthani mother. All the dancers and musicians, in North India, I think maybe nowadays in South India too, everybody eats everything nowadays, So he came and he ate. After the lunch, I was brought into the room, and he was sitting like this, and I was brought into the room, and he's an eye connection, and he was sitting there, and I was brought in, so I touched his feet and everything, and he just said and looked into my eyes and said, "Son, you want to study with me?" And I just looked at his face and said, I was mesmerized.
So what made you decide to come to America?
Because partly was that I was not getting anywhere. because it was so difficult. And partly also I wanted my mothers to say, get out of the country. Get out of the country, then you will learn what is your country, what is your background, what you have studied, until and unless you go out of the country. And I began to know India when I came to America, and I learned so many things about India. And nowadays more so through the Discovery Channel. I know more about India through Discovery Channel. One thing is, in America makes you very humble, because we are all like a drop in a bucket, because there's immigrants. This is the land of the immigrants, right? So all the cream of the immigrants come in this country. So everybody's good in their own, own level. Nobody's less than nobody. So it makes you keep on toes.
That's true.
Yeah, it makes you stronger, actually. In India, of course, there's competition, but you are among your own kind, so you know how to deal with it. And
and everything is taken care of for you.
Taken care of, yeah. And I believe very strongly. That's what I want to do. The generations, the younger generations who are born and brought up here, I want to connect them with the younger generations over there, and trying to see the world that it's not very different from each other.
Is that why you go back very often to India? You travel almost once a year, right?
Yes. The source has to be there.
Yes.
That is the source. I have to go and touch the earth.
But have you ever wondered what your career would have been like had you stayed back in India? We see masters like Birju Maharaj and others who have established themselves.
He's from the bloodline.
I know.
He's from the bloodline, so he's in a different. I consider him my emperor, and he's a great samrat, and a great genius, and but he's from the bloodline. I'm not from the bloodline. So for people who are not from the bloodline, they have to work 10 times more.
Harder, yes.
Because, people may not,
the right opportunities don't come up.
The right opportunity, and people, what I believe very strongly, people understand music more. Percussion also, anybody playing percussion, people get very excited. But dance audience is limited.
That's probably because you need a deeper level of understanding in order to appreciate it.
Exactly. What is the dance giving you? What is the dance? The Indian dancing is not dancing. You're talking about dance, you're talking about music, you're talking about percussion, you're talking about history, you're talking about philosophy, you're talking about religion, and then finally to spiritualism, final moksha.
Tell us about how Ustad Ali Akbar Khan discovered you. After
Khan Sahib had a long history. He used to go and stay in Calcutta in the Mukherjee's house, and a very famous house. There I was at the age of 9, just after I started. He was visiting there, and the great Chaturlalji, the tabla master, was there at that time, and Khan Sahib was there. So one of the Mukherjee's family just said that, oh, you know, this boy studies Kathak. So he said, oh yeah, so show me some tatkar. So I did some tatkar in front of him. So he said, oh, this was good. He called Chaturlalji and he said that, see, this boy's tatkar. So I decided a composition, I think, tat-tuta, tat-tuta, tat-tuta. And so he said, no, son, it's not tat-tuta. I said, tat-tuta, tat-tuta. That's all. Next thing, I don't see him. Well, I've seen him, but I've never. Next thing, I'm in California, in Maryland. And at that time, I was married to Julia, who has been very, very, he was responsible for, in the earlier days, her contribution was enormous. I mean, I'm indebted to her. I can never, you know, she created a lot of beautiful things and a lot of things. And her sacrifice in Kathak is a lots she has done for me, for Kathak. I have to say that, you know, I'm indebted to her. And I was married, and so what happened, I needed a job, and a great dancer from East Coast, Manjusri Chaki Sarkar, you know, I think you know, she just passed away, unfortunately, and she was my father's student. And she said to me, when I was visiting her, she said that, your only place in America is California and Ustad Ali Akbar Khan Sahab. So I called Khan Sahab 3 times, and 3 times he received the phone, and 3 times he said to me, come, let me see what I can do for you. And then I came. And my interview was a concert, actually, with Shankar Ghosh. And who was the audience? Khan Sahab, Nikhil Banerjee, Ashish Da, and all these people were there. And this is in 1970s. And we were in the flower, children's were all over here. And it was just a very different world. It was a very different world. And then I started with 9 students at the Ali Akbar College of Music in the San Rafael in the military academy in those days. And Khan Sahab used to teach upstairs. And I started with my ex-wife, Tony, Zaki's wife, and there were several others at that time. I started with 9, I still remember, and it was very interesting. And that's how I started with Khan Sahab. Yeah.
That's a great story.
Now you do not move this hand. Yeah. Out.
So the word Kathak is originating from the word Katha, which means the art of storytelling.
Yes.
What is the origin of Kathak itself?
Like the minstrels and the bards, you know, they in the ancient times they would go from village to village telling stories. But there are a lot of Kathakas also. There were Kathakas, Rajdharis, Natwas, different families. But they were later, I think. Historically, it goes in the Mahabharata time. There was mentions of that. But there were storytellers. Basically, they were storytellers. Even Lord Krishna. You say Lord Krishna was he was a Sutradhara. That means a leader of a play. So it's a natak. So Lila. So because he became later on the leader of a play, you know, his own Lila. So storytelling, that part. But when the Mughals came in, they brought their dancers, and when the Persians came in, they brought their dancers. So at that time in the court, I think they started getting influences. But the Kathakas, the Hindu dancers, were all along there. but there was storytelling part and the singing part was there. Abhinaya was not so stylized as it is in the South Indian dancing, especially in Kathakali. It's one kind, of course, and Bharatanatyam is slightly different, but not so much. In Kathak, subtlety, the word subtlety is very important. So their bhava is more from the feeling, in the sense that no mudras have they have mudras, we have mudras, but it's not so stylized, no sophisticated in terms of Bharatanatyam and Kathakali or other South Indian art forms. So, it becomes subtlety. So, everything is very subtle way of expressing oneself, one's feelings. The dance form which you see nowadays in Kathak is pretty recent. It's pretty recent, and in fact, I think they are saying that even Bharatanatyam also is pretty recent. Now people are accepting the fact it's not. The roots go thousands of years. Yes, it is, and because there are a lot of compositions. They are realizing these are all latest compositions and all. So the latest, what you see now is the development of Jaipur and Lucknow. The way I'm dancing is that both Lucknow and Jaipur. So I take these 4 words like tayari, laikari. Tayari means, really speaking, to tayar karna, to prepare. But in terms of dancing, we call it tayari is one who's very depth and speed and power and skill. Laikari, one who's very, very skillful in playing with different tempos and laya. And khubsurti and nazakat, beauty and the delicacy of the beauty and the subtlety of the beauty. And that is Kathak. To me, I believe that's the 4 words play a very important role in Kathak. And the storytelling part, because in Kathak it's very limited. We could not do a lot of story of Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwar. It is recently some gurus are now codifying, modifying hastaks. Now I'm doing it, first hastak, second hastak. I never learned like that in Kathak. In Bharatanatyam you have it already built in. In Kathakali you already have the vocabulary. In Kathak we didn't have like that. It was like the guru to guru. That's why you'll find lots of gurus, they say this is there, we are doing it, and they'll say no. I'm sure you have the same thing in Bharatanatyam, because certain ways of movement, certain things, it changes. But overall you can say it's more or less the same, more or less. I'm not saying
more codified.
More codified. Whereas in Kathak you don't. So it's very difficult. So school to school is different philosophy.
Right.
And so I realized that we have to, living in America. So my Guruji would say, like this, theek hai, chalo. If I say that to my students, they say, Dada, is it here or is it here? Or is it here? Or is it here? Here. So I said, I'm going to very well. Okay, all right, first hastak, second hastak. By doing that, it becomes easier, because times have changed, and most of the students are not one-to-one basis nowadays, mostly in the school and groups. So we feel, I'm sure some other great gurus are doing in India, and they are doing different hastaks, they are doing. So people are now following certain. But then again, it's good, because in a way it's good, because every school will have their distinct style of hand gestures, distinct.
Can you demonstrate any one of your favorite pieces for us and our viewers?
Demonstrate. I mean, just
a thumri or anything that you would like to.
मैं तो शाम बिना नहीं जाऊंगी सखी रे, मैं तो शाम बिना, 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 मैं तो शाम बिना नहीं जाऊंगी Sakhi re, main to sham bina. It's a song I'm working, this is the divine inspiration, I call it. I'm known for speed and power. So I'm going into Lord Krishna said, time has come, slow down, I will give you power.
So do you feel that having a cross-cultural marriage has changed you in any way?
To be very honest with you, I was always with quote unquote white women. So I don't know. I mean, I believe very much that if you believe in doing something bigger, then you cannot think of yourself first. Then you have to give. There is always have to be give and take. There's no other way out.
So how do you inspire your students to such depth of feeling for the art form of Kathak?
You have to invest for your students. You have to invest, and you cannot think of yourself. Oh, I'm going to perform, and so okay, you people take care. I would be better off now in India. I will have a better job. I will be performing everywhere. I don't have to do anything.
Tell us how you would like history to remember you.
Well, a pioneer who brought to this country Kathak, a modern guru in training. But I want to dance at the age of 70, and pray for me. At the age of 70, I want to dance strong if I can. By doing that, if I can do it, then I set a tone for the next generations. That then already I'm doing it. If I can carry another 4 years, I'll be, something will be good. That they will say, well, if he can do this at this age, we should do this, and we should do this because this gives so much strength, feeling, learning. And I would like my students, especially female students, at the age of 60s, when they become grandmothers, that they go to their sadhana, they go to their room, where they practice their dance, and the grandchildren, they will say, oh my God, my grandmother still practicing, unbelievable, what is going on? And that's the way I want to be remembered, that the sadhana, believing in Guru, the sadhana, that will keep you going the rest of your life. And that is the ultimate grace of the divine that keeps you going, that you don't feel that you're getting old. Maybe in your looks or the hair or this or that, but you're feeling always that high, always that you are creating that within yourself, that you're practicing at the same time, and you are one with everything. My Guruji used to say, son, dance in such a way, law banjai, become all one together.
Well, thank you for giving us such a pleasurable interview, Guruji.
Thank you very much for having me in your program.
How would you like history to remember you?